do you think of when you hear someone talking about virtual reality games? The arcade? Or maybe video games? Tonight, we'll take a look at how these games might end up in your child's classroom. Good evening. My name is Teresa Montgomery and this is your 6 o'clock news. Tonight, we will be looking at virtual reality games. First of all, what are virtual reality games? Don O'Brien explains. Don.
Virtual reality is a fully immersive computer-simulated environment that gives a user the feeling of being in that environment instead of the one they're actually in. A lot of video games have already developed the technology to put the user in an interactive world, in the driver's seat of a car, or on the battlefield in a first-person shooter, or even in your own little...
Some of these technologies are already being used in the classroom, but how? Let's take a look.
In fact, that children have different learning styles. Some are visual, some are auditory, and still others learn best with a more tactile or hands-on approach. The immersive 3D classroom, made possible by 3D DLP technology, enhances visual learning and stimulates hands-on learning in a way never before possible. Bring human anatomy to life, dissect a frog that doesn't get your hands dirty, watch as students immerse themselves in a tour through the solar system and beyond, with 3D classroom content powered by DLP technology.
New product, there are advantages and disadvantages to utilizing them in the classroom. What are these advantages? Savannah Mann uses MindMeister to give us a quick overview.
As Teresa mentioned, it's important to look at advantages and disadvantages before implementing a new tool into the classroom. After doing some research, here are some general thoughts on each side. Let's start with disadvantages. One disadvantage that some thought might be significant was time constraints, because teachers would have to be trained on how to use these tools. It would also take time to develop the software for each class. Another disadvantage they thought might affect things was interaction. Students would have less peer interaction because they would be using the virtual reality. They also felt that they would have less student-teacher interaction because the virtual reality would be doing the teaching. They also thought it might be a disadvantage to teachers because many things would be digital and on the computer, and they wouldn't be teaching in a traditional way. They also thought it might be a disadvantage because teachers would be using a lot of email to communicate with their students rather than face-to-face interaction. And another disadvantage was resources, because it takes time and money to develop these programs. So it might take some time to get the virtual reality exactly the way that you wanted it to be. Now let's talk about some of the advantages. One advantage is the internet. The internet provides tools so that teachers and students can be organized and turn in work and look at work in an organized fashion. Internet is easily accessible, so students and teachers can both look at it easily. And distance learning. It's available anytime, anywhere, 24 hours a day. Another advantage would be resources. You have internet access, and you also have basics there. So you can utilize any tool that's available on the internet, and anything that needs storage, you have that available on a computer. You also can form relationships through the internet and utilize public work and public knowledge that way. And student engagement was also considered to be an advantage because students can collaborate on group projects. They can engage with the teacher to ask questions and further their learning. And it's less cost for the student because they can use tools available on the internet and use the virtual reality rather than buying books or buying various other classroom tools that cost money. So as you can see, they're used both ways, but overall, I think virtual reality in the classroom would be a very good thing.
Thanks, Savannah. It looks like virtual reality could be changing things in the near future. Tune in at 10 o'clock to see how wearable technologies are making their way into schools. I'm Teresa Montgomery, and remember, you heard it here on your local news channel. Good evening.